All right. So for the last session, several of the questions that were asked, big one, education benefits, um, especially everybody trying to come in out of high school. That seems to be the big one right now. But the general gist of our education benefits, you have access to them from day one at your first base, which is after you graduate basic training in tech school, which tech school is where you learn your specific job. Um, Breaks down into two main parts. There's several others that you'll use later on in your career. You don't really need to worry about those for the first several years. So give you time to figure those out later on. But yeah. So put a pause on that question. For Zoom user, since you just asked the question, shall the student who is a non-citizen but has a green card apply? It needs to be a 10-year card, or unfortunately, you are not eligible to join the Air Force. If you do have a 10-year card, though, absolutely. Yeah, you can absolutely come in. You would have to follow all the same rules with everybody else, but yeah, you'd be allowed to come in. Your jobs would be mildly limited. If you are not a citizen, you cannot hold a top secret clearance. So that does take several jobs away from you, such as like intel jobs, cyber jobs, unfortunately. But you could still hold the vast majority of jobs. So you would have a lot of options still. Does that answer your question? Maybe. All right. Anyway, back to the education stuff. Um, so from day one, oh, you're welcome. From day one at your first base, the big thing that you would be using is tuition assistance. It is up to supervisor permission in order for you to be able to use that. But once they do give you permission, we don't care what school you go to. We don't care what degree you get. It will pay for one bachelor's and one master's degree, but it's up to $4,500 a year and up to $250 a credit. So if you do one of the science or math classes that are 4 or 5 credits, it will make it to where you cannot use the education for another class that year. You'd have to wait until the next October when it renews again. But like I said, we don't care what school you go to. We don't care what degree you get. So even if you are random aircraft mechanics job number 1, but you really want a medical degree, go for it. All right. You can get whatever you want because it's yours to take with after you get out. So make sure that you actually get something that you're interested in. I really, really hate seeing people go and getting whatever bachelor's degree because they think it checks the box, but they have no interest in it. Get what you want. Get what you're interested in. And then the other big one is the GI Bill. That's the one that everybody hears about, TVs and movies. It's 3 years of education benefits. It's about $60,000 depending on the year. Same thing, don't care what school you go to, don't care what degree you get. So make sure that you get what you want. We'll also pay for one bachelor's, one master's degree. But once you start using it, it starts a timer. So if you can't earn both of those degrees by the timer is up, it's just the way that it is. But it's if you use it while you're in, all you get is the education benefits. If you use it once you get out, you also get housing allowance, food allowance, book and lab allowance, paid as a 6-year E5, which right now is about $2,800. You can also transfer it to spouse and children. So if your spouse uses it while you're in, same thing, just the education benefits. If your children use it while you're in, they would get all of those additional benefits. So if you're not really sure how you're going to pay for school and everything, military as a whole is just a good way to get your education paid for. You come in for 4 years, 6 years, which are our 2 contract lengths. Get your bachelor's degree or the vast majority of it done in those first 4 to 6 years. Get out, finish up your degree if you want to. You do have to do a minimum of 4 years before you have access to the GI Bill, which means by the time you're done with your first contract, you have access to it. So come in, do your first 4 years, work on your bachelor's degree while you're doing that, get out. If you don't want to do the military thing anymore, start using your GI Bill, get your master's degree paid for by that. Does the Air Force offer positions relating to linguistics? Apparently, I can't talk. I apologize for that. To linguistics. Yes, we do. We actually have 2 jobs. They're pretty much the same title, just one's in a plane, one's on the ground, called cryptological linguist. it's pretty much the idea of the job is we will teach you a new language and we will teach you a new culture, and then your job for your career is to go be the expert on that. So the training is in Monterey Bay, California. Oh darn, it's just awful having to be there for a year and a half to 2 years, depending on which language you get picked up for. And then after that, you can work anywhere from on the plane, circling around over whatever country, listening to the radio, making sure they're not plotting something. You could be working at a consulate. You could be working with, as a general's aide, listening into the conversations without them knowing that you know the language and everything like that. There's all kinds of different places that you can go with that job. But no, you don't have to have a college degree ahead of time. If you decide to go get one, awesome, but you don't have to have one. No. Does that answer your question, Aiden? All right. And then can you take college courses or other training programs? Yeah, absolutely. That's the tuition assistance that I was just talking about. I earned my bachelor's degree while I was in. It's if you decide to go to school full time, it's time consuming and you're going to run out of tuition assistance. But yeah, absolutely, you can go while you're in. And then as to the other training programs, that's actually a different pot of money. We have a thing called Air Force Cool. It is a one-time in your career pot of money that you can use to get other training programs like certifications and stuff like that. That's one of the things I normally don't really tell people about too terribly much because most people don't use it until they're about to get out of the Air Force. And the reason for that is, like I said, it's a one-time thing, $4,500 for whatever certification you want to get with it. And it's not, you can get a whole bunch of them for under the $4,500. It's once. So if you really, really want to get a roof inspector certification and the course is $1,000, you decide to use the Air Force Cool, you just wasted $1,500 or sorry, $3,500. So make sure it's one that's worth it. You can use it in conjunction with money out of your own pocket too. So if you find one that's like $5,000, you can use the $4,500 and only come $500 out of pocket to get one of those certifications. So same thing, make sure it's something that you actually want to get instead of just dumping money at it because it checks a box. Does that make sense? Awesome. And then back to Aiden again. Also, would joining with a degree allow me to advance further than if you were to enlist? It's a different type of advancement. So if you come in with a degree, you have the option to try and come in as an officer. I'm an enlisted only recruiter, so please take the information I'm going to give you with a grain of salt. I am actually in the process of applying for officer myself right now, so I kind of know that bit of it, but I do not know everything for the officer straight out the gate. All right. But the general gist of it is you have to have a bachelor's degree in order to come in as an officer or to switch over to officer once you are in. There's 3 different types of officer selection. The first one is rated. That's the people that are actually on the planes. So pilots, navigators, battlefield managers. All right. They don't care what your degree is in order to go into those jobs. But the selection process is really, really strict. So on paper, they require a minimum of a 3.0 GPA. The last several years, the average selection GPA has been closer to a 3.5, if not higher. So see the line, go way above that line, all right, to make yourself much more competitive. After that, you have the STEM officers. There's only a few categories of officers that have to have specific degrees for the military as a whole, but especially in the Air Force. Medical, obviously, you need a medical degree. Legal needs a legal degree. Engineering needs an engineering degree of some kind. So there's civil engineering. which requires civil engineering, architectural engineering, electrical engineering, architecture, and environmental engineering. You need one of those 5. And then there's also aeronautical engineering that requires, obviously, some sort of aeronautical engineer. And then now they're also trying to get it more towards the cyber guys. So like cybersecurity, cyber surety, all that. They want them to have cyber degrees now too. You don't yet have to have a cyber degree for those, but it definitely helps. Other than that, you can have whatever degree you want for the other jobs. But for the STEM officers, you just need a 2.75 in GPA for those. And then the third type of officer is non-rated, and you're just random Joe Schmo officer. You could be doing anything from like logistics to contract control to finance. You can just kind of be all over the place. You're pretty much just an admin person. You're making sure that they function, right? You need a minimum 3.0 for those. That's same thing as with the pilots. Like the average GPA or the required GPA is a 3.0, but the average is way higher than that. And they only have so many slots for those. The way the officer selection works, they have X amount of slots per year. The first funnel of that is going to come from the Air Force Academy. So say there's 1,000 jobs, 600 of those are going to get filled by the Air Force Academy. After that, they're going to have the remaining 400 jobs. They're going to go look at all of the different ROTC colleges all around the country. So USF, UCF, FSU, wherever they're at. They're going to look at all the people that are on Air Force scholarships for ROTC in college. They're going to fill another 300 people with that. So now there's only 100 of them, 100 slots left. At that point in time, they're going to look at folks like myself that are enlisted members that are applying for it that have a bachelor's degree. They're going to take another 75 out of that. And then the last 25 is just going to be a random person walking in off the street that has a degree. So if your goal is to try and aim for officer, if you're not already accepted to the Air Force Academy, if you're accepted to a college, start talking to their ROTC programs and try and get into it. That's your best bet. You can still get in other ways, but that's the easiest way that you're going to have. Does that make sense, Aiden? And then for advancement, for that, officers and enlisted are mildly similar at the beginning stages. So the way it kind of works, enlisted members are the blue collar workers. We're the ones that are actually swinging hammers, fixing planes, that kind of stuff. And then the officers are more of the white collar. The first couple of ranks in both are just handed to you. So for the enlisted side, it's the way our grades work is E1 through 9. So enlisted grade 1 through 4 are just handed to you based off of time. It's the same thing for the officer side. Theirs is the O's. O1 through 3 are just handed to you based off of time. After that, you start going into testing and having your entire career looked at and everything like that to see if you're worth being pushed up to the next rank. And then you're going against everybody else that's going for that rank as well. So coming in with a degree puts you in a different form of advancing. Your pay is higher, you have more responsibility and everything like that. But a lot of times the officers don't make it past 05, whereas the enlisted, a lot of times you're making it to E6, 7, 8 before you get out kind of thing. So it's just kind of dependent on you and how much of a bright, shiny star you can make yourself, really. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Ooh, looks like we got another one. At what time is the best time to reach out to a recruiter? The senior year. Senior year is the best time to reach out to us. Realistically, you can reach out to us as a junior in the second half of your year, but right now we'll answer questions for you, but we're probably not even going to bring you into our office until you're a senior. And potentially even right now, we might not even bring you in until you're in the second half of your senior year. It's just there's not very many jobs for you guys at those levels right now. So it's just we don't really have the time. But we will absolutely answer whatever questions you have if you do reach out to us. And then, are there any good tech jobs for enlisted? Absolutely. We have over 170 different jobs for the enlisted side, and the vast majority of them are technical career fields. So for the Air Force, we have 4 categories of jobs. It's mechanical, administration, general, and electrical. 80% of our jobs are somewhere in the mechanical or electrical wheelhouse. So swinging hammers, turning wrenches, fixing planes, fixing buildings, fixing comms and computers and everything else. So a lot of tech jobs. And that's pretty much the entire purpose of the Air Force, is to be the tech guys. Like when we hire you for a job, we want you to be that technical expert in that job. So we're going to give you tons and tons of training towards that. Did that answer the question? Coming in late. Cybersecurity. Yeah, we do have cybersecurity. So one thing that a lot of people don't know is the Air Force recruiters are also the Space Force recruiters. So we have 9 cyber wheelhouse jobs that range anywhere from cybersecurity to the person that's actually laying the cables out, getting it from one building to the next, filling the building, whatever they got to do. You have a whole lot of window in that. So pretty much what happened with the Space Force is they actually pulled half of the people out of our cyber jobs and made them into a new branch of the military. And now that's slowly getting bigger and bigger and everything. But if cyber is what you're really, really interested in, you can do either Air Force or Space Force, and you have an opportunity for that. If you're going for the Space Force, you have to be open to all of the jobs that are in the cyber wheelhouse. You're going to get a ton of world-class training on those. They'll actually get you different certifications on like C++ and a bunch of the other languages. In my office, I actually have the list to the side of me because I don't remember all of them. But I'm unfortunately not in my office. So yeah, we do have the cyber jobs. There's about 9 of them right now. No problem. I will let you know that we do have the cyber jobs, but they're not super, super common. And when they do come out, they're oftentimes like the first things to go because they get filled real fast because they're highly desirable. So between cyber and medical jobs, those are the first things that get filled every time that we get new jobs down. So if that's what you're interested in, absolutely shoot your shot for it. But you will need to be open to other things as well. If you're only interested in like 1 or 2 cyber jobs and nothing else, it's kind of the same thing. We just don't have time to work with you if you're going to be job blocked like that. But me personally, I put in just shy of 80 people in the 2.5 years that I've been doing this, and I've booked like 20 cyber jobs. We have a lot of smart kids here, so we get a lot of them. So no, you don't have to take the ASVAB in high school. We can actually get you signed up for it. It does help you if you take it in high school, and the reason for that, you can take it as many times as you want in high school, and it does not count against you. The big thing is it's the newest test, not the best test. So if you score a 50 the first time, you want to take it again to try and score higher, and you score a 45, the 45 is what sticks. Right? But once you start taking the ASVAB with us as recruiters, we can just sign you up for the first one at any point in time. But if you decide that you need to retake the test, you have to wait 30 days between test 1 and test 2, and then 30 days between 2 and 3, and then 6 months between test 3 and 4. So shoot your shot in high school first is what I always recommend, because it doesn't count against you. It gives you an extra chance to take it. And then if you have a high score on it, we can just lock it in, call it good. Anybody else? Thank you guys for asking questions. I definitely appreciate it. Makes these a lot more entertaining. What school do you go to, Aiden? All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, I definitely appreciate you guys coming through. It makes coming to these things worthwhile. So thank you guys for coming through, and thank you guys for asking all the questions. Oh, yeah, for deployments in overseas, we have several bases that are overseas that you can just get stationed at. So like Germany, UK, Italy, Japan, Korea. Myself, I've been stationed in Japan, Korea, and Germany. So you can definitely get overseas. Different jobs can go to different bases. So depending on what you're interested in, that might be a factor in trying to pick a job. So we can always look that up for you as well. And then deployments are also dependent on your job. They're almost always 6 months for the Air Force. You'll very, very rarely get one that's longer than that. And most of the time you end up volunteering to stay longer, not going past the 6 months because we need you to. But like my old career field was in the civil engineering squadron. Because there's buildings everywhere, we went quite often. So I've been in for 14 and a half years. I've only deployed 3 times, but that's just because the 3 other times that I was tasked for deployment, they got canceled. So I've seen other people that have been in for 6 years and they've gone 4 times. I mean, it just kind of depends, but it's going to be 6 months most likely. And no, you don't get to choose where you're deployed. Wherever the mission is where you're going to go. For the most part, for the Air Force, though, we're going to Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, so the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, or somewhere in Africa right now. There's occasional other ones. I've seen plenty of people that fixed planes that deployed to Italy. Oh, no. So just kind of depends. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Everybody good? Everybody having a good night?